Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Here we look at the best captaincy candidates for Gameweek 28's reduced fixture list. My name is Joe and joining me to look at the options is David. David, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. The Liverpool game on Monday night obviously was what everything was centering on, and I got just about enough of what I wanted. Wasn't amazing, but it'll do. But you know, it's watching Liverpool kind of have to really work hard to beat West Ham. I'm kind of hoping that we see something a little bit more confident throughout the whole game against Watford, because obviously Liverpool are where we're looking to for this one, with it being a blank game week.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, let's get straight in with that because I've certainly got some stats about Watford. I'm sure you might have something to say about them too, and also about the Liverpool assets, because it's not just a question of captain Mo Salah, for example, because there's loads of options at the moment. As we saw in Game Week 27, Alexander-Arnold is a good captaincy option, reliable. Robertson even is a differential. Firmino is someone I'll talk about, and of course Mane. So there's a lot of options there. So let's take it through. Liverpool against Watford looks the standout fixture. Which Liverpool asset do you think is the best one to captain?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll start by just sort of clarifying on Watford. People who've obviously been sort of paying attention to Nigel Pearson since he turned up initially made some good progress, but that seems to have waned recently. In their last 4 matches, they've conceded at least twice on 3 occasions. They conceded 3 goals on 2 occasions in that 4-match period, and they're starting to creep a little bit further back towards the area that they used to be in under some of their former managers. They're not quite whipping boys yet. But they are about to face Liverpool, so they could well become that again. In the last 4 games, they conceded 9 big chances, which is good enough for the bottom 7. So it's not, awful, but at the same time, it doesn't look like they're going to keep a clean sheet on the basis of that. They've conceded more goals than they should have in the last 4 as well. They conceded 9 goals, should have conceded 6.93 according to XGC. So, either that suggests they've been a bit unfortunate, or it maybe suggests a lack of concentration. Either way, they've conceded a fair number of goals, and Liverpool, a lot of their assets are having a lot of shots and in the right areas. So, yeah, over the last 4, one thing we were a little bit sort of hoping that Salah would improve on in Game Week 27 was accuracy, and he has now done that, which is great, because if we look at Premier League players over the last 4 for shots on target, I always go last 4 matches, and if you do that, you are going to have to ignore the fact that Harry Kane, Rashford and Son all are still in the top 3 whilst injured. But take them out of the equation. Jay Rodriguez is actually top. There's always some random person. But like level on 7 with Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and Salah. So of fit players in the last 4 matches, only one player's had more shots on target than Salah. So he's starting to find his feet there, which is good. And he's had 15 shots in the box, which is the joint best as well. So that is just kind of peak Salah, to be honest. Exactly what we want to see ahead of a relatively favourable fixture. And his creativity is still there. 4 big chances created in the last 4. Only Richarlison's created more than that. So once again, we kind of go into another game week where, in my opinion, Salah is the best option, because he's ahead of Mane for all of the goal threat statistics. He's ahead of everyone, including Alexander-Arnold, for the quality of the chances he's creating. Firmino is had more big chances than Salah, but has been a bit inaccurate, as a lot of us saw last night. So it's hard to really look past Salah if you're going to go for a Liverpool man. I guess the case for Alexander-Arnold is, of course, he's not blanked in a game that he's started in since game week 13, which is just ridiculous at this point. But it's worth saying that you've got to kind of rely on Liverpool to keep a clean sheet in this game, and I don't know if we necessarily can predict that with as much confidence as we could maybe before the winter break. They've been a bit, I don't know, there's something a little bit missing from them, and they're giving up a few more chances. I mean, West Ham scored 2 goals last night. That's the same number of goals Liverpool conceded in the previous 11 Premier League matches. So clearly something kind of not quite right. Obviously, they haven't got Jordan Henderson right now, who I personally think is a big miss for them. So can Liverpool keep a clean sheet at Watford? Yes, but could I predict it with as much certainty as a big Salah haul? I'm not so sure. So, I mean, for me, it's Salah. I don't know what you think, Joe.
Yeah, well, I think stats-wise it says Salah, but But what it comes down to with the captaincy at this stage of the season as well, you have to look at things like ownership. I see a few people on Twitter and places like that talking, oh, don't ignore ownership, make your decision who's going to score the most points. Well, it's a game. You've got potentially 7 million other players, certainly millions of other players. You have to take into account ownership. So getting those low-owned captaincy calls right against the high-owned captaincy calls, that's where your rank boosts are going to be. So if you think Liverpool are going to keep a clean sheet, and if you think Alexander-Arnold's going to get some kind of attacking return, and you think this could be a match where Salah may blank, you have to go for that differential option. But for those that are doing a bit better in the rankings and you just want to consolidate, just go for the safest option. But it's up to each FPL manager where they stand on it. I just want to go back to those stats again. I put them up on the screen, but we'll go to the stats with Watford. This shows that they're there for the taking. Now, you read out a lot of those stats as well. I mean, the main takeaway from that is when you look at goals conceded and you're looking at shots conceded in the box and big chances conceded, they're not as bad as, say, Villa, for example, in terms of big chances. Villa conceded 20 in the last 4 matches. But nevertheless, they're up there. They're up there in whipping boy status. Watford are now whipping boys. So West Ham, Watford and Villa, they're the ones you want to target. Because their XG is also high. Yeah, say their XG, so Watford's expected goals conceded is nearly 7, but they have conceded 9. Nevertheless, they're expected to concede 7 over that time. So that's what I think, they're there for the taking. I'm just going to put up another table here, goals imminent table, and this shows what's going on with Firmino. And Firmino is topper there. Usually with Firmino, he's on the goals imminent table a lot, particularly when they're home games. For some reason, this season, he's better away than at home when it comes to scoring. So when you have a few home games and he's not doing business away sometimes, he's going to rise to the top of the table. There's 2 ways off this table for Firmino. He scores. Therefore, he leaps off. He scores a couple, definitely leaps off. Or he does absolutely nothing and he starts moving down and those stats start to look really bad. But at the moment, they're not looking too bad. The shots... So the big chances missed 5, big chances total 5. That's where you talk about the accuracy there. Yeah. Shots inside the box 11. That's good. 11. This is last 4 matches, by the way. So he is in the right place. Shots on target 3. So he needs to improve on that. But his expected goals, he's heading on for nearly 3. So over those last 4 matches, really, according to the stats, he should have scored about 2 or 3. But he scored none. So that says to me, if you've got Firmino, keep hold of him. If you haven't got Firmino, that's your choice. I think there may be better options, but but definitely don't ditch him if you've got him. I'm a Firmino owner. Yeah. He's going nowhere for me for this Watford game. Yeah, definitely. But I just thought I'd highlight those really. But there are other options outside of Liverpool, intriguing differentials. And here's one. He's a guy I'm gonna brag up that I got him in this week for Son Fernandes at Manchester United. Suddenly, Manchester United have got a creative player. I know their fans are pretty pleased about that. So no wonder Martial in this picture is happy because he's finally got someone to help him score goals. And that's the way it is. And for Fernandes, I think there was a quote, wasn't there, from him, and I think we flagged it up on Fantasy Football Scout about how he was almost sort of annoyed that Martial hadn't scored from his assist. That's right. He essentially assisted himself, but hadn't got him. So it's almost like he's counting assists. It's almost like he plays FPL. I wonder, and maybe captaining himself each week. But anyway, Fernandes looking good. What do you reckon? Intriguing differential this week?
Yeah, I mean, certainly he's on my list of players to sign. De Bruyne obviously has no fixture this week, and maybe they're going to throw a bit more into the Champions League and some of the cup competitions. Potentially, could that mean that he's not as worth owning in FPL right now? Easy route into Fernandes if need be. I quite like Fernandes' stats over the last few games that he's played, but obviously we have to kind of understand what type of player he is. I think you've got to understand where he is dangerous from before you sign him, if that makes sense. And obviously, assist potential is a big part of what he's about. 7 chances created in the last 4 from 269. So it's three games, basically 269 minutes. So that's not too bad. The only thing is he doesn't really shoot in the box very often.
No.
So this is the thing is he's had loads and loads of shots outside of the box, but he's had just 2 in the box, which doesn't necessarily mean that he's not, going to score, because he is quite accurate.
While you're mentioning that, I'm just going to put up the goals imminent table again, because Fernandes is at the bottom of that. So what you were just describing, the stats are there for those who want to see it.
Yeah. So as we can see from goals imminent, he does shoot a lot, but it is often outside of the box. So just 2 in the box. 1 big chance, 4 on target, which is, all right. I mean, it's certainly the kind of stats that would make me want to sign him, because I think compared to Martial's just going to give you goals, I think, whereas Fernandes could give you goals and assists and potentially penalties as well. I mean, Man United have been crying out for a penalty taker. Maybe he's going to fill that void too. So certainly a great option. But would I captain him this week? Because I might sign him, it's worth saying. Would I captain him? Probably not. If we compare him with Salah, I mean, I think it's worth saying that there aren't too many players that if their speciality is scoring outside of the box, it still doesn't happen very often. So you look at De Bruyne, he doesn't score very many goals. I mean, he scores enough, but not loads. Neves is another example. These sorts of players, I don't want to captain them. I want to captain someone who's shooting in the box. And, I always sound like a broken record whenever Salah is the one that I'm looking at for any game week. But when you just compare Fernandes with Salah, Salah's had 15 shots in the box and Fernandes has had just 2. Salah's had 7 shots on target. Fernandes has had 4. I mean, Fernandes has played slightly fewer minutes, but the whole point is that Fernandes is going to threaten from outside the box. Salah's going to threaten from inside it. And for me, that's the big thing. And then the fixture itself, I'll be more confident about Liverpool and kind of walking over Watford than I would be Man United walking over Everton, because Everton are still in quite good form. I think Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are going to cause Man United problems in game week 28. I mean, their stats look fantastic. I mean, if I was wildcarding now, I'd have Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin potentially, because they both just look so good. I mean, so nobody's created more big chances over the last 4 than Richarlison. Nobody's had more big chances in that period than Calvert-Lewin, and no one's had more shots on target other than Rodriguez. So as a front pairing, they look so good. And then because it's at Goodison Park, I think it's going to be quite a tough game. And then defensively, Everton, I know they conceded 3 against Arsenal, but still over the last 4, their defensive stats are not amazing, but they're not awful either. They're sort of kind of lower top half. The shots conceded in the box at 31. They conceded 4 big chances. Only United, City and Liverpool have conceded fewer. And their XGC is 4.72. Which again, sort of like lower top half. So it doesn't really compare with Watford.
No.
So that's the thing, is I don't think Fernandes compares with Salah particularly favourably. I don't think Everton's defence compares with Watford. So very nice looking player. I may sign him myself, but it is going to be a little bit of a while before I consider captaining Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of weeks, Liverpool assets, they look better. They in better form, and they have a better fixture in Watford. But I do think for those looking for a differential, I do think Fernandes could be an option. I mean, you mentioned there Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. So what's happening at the moment? Everton's fixtures are not great, but their attack keep them looking good. Their defence, though, I don't know. I think their defence is there for the taking, not to the same extent as Watford. So we're looking at those defensive whipping boy stats again. Everton have conceded 8 in their last 4 matches. The stats say they should have conceded about 4 or 5. So they've been arguably unlucky there. But nevertheless, they are conceding there. They last got a clean sheet in the Premier League in January the 10th. And even Palace has scored against them. So for this Brighton fan, to say even Palace can score against them, they are there for the taking. And yes, of course, they did concede against Arsenal. So I think that Manchester United will score, but I don't think it's going to be as heavy as you say about Liverpool, and that hope there for those backing Liverpool assets. So in conclusion, lots of good assets in this tie, but perhaps not as good as Liverpool. Meanwhile, there are some other assets as well to consider. Moving down the list, so Leicester's fixtures, they turned dramatically. They've had a bit of a spell, dodgy fixtures, and it starts with a trip to Norwich. Jamie Vardy's the traditional choice, but there's a few other ones as well within Leicester's ranks. What do you think about Leicester for this tie?
Yeah, so when I about 2 game weeks ago, I kind of was faced with a decision about Vardy, and I decided to hold on to him. One of the reasons was this fixture, it's tricky because Norwich, as we sort of mentioned in the last captain video, have actually made some improvements. So they're not going to keep a whole host of clean sheets, but it's hard to see them getting thrashed too regularly. I know they lost. I know they lost 3-0 at Wolves, so that's why I'm not really sure what to expect from them because their stats aren't awful. So 41 shots conceded last 4. It's sort of like lower mid table. 10 big chances, so it's bottom 6. I mean that's quite encouraging. XGC 8.23. So again, that's sort of like bottom 6 or 7. So I think they'll concede, but it's hard to really say they'll get completely destroyed because I mean they have kind of looked a little bit more. So I mean they were quite solid at home against Liverpool as well. And then of course the other thing is that with Vardy, you talked about the goals imminent table. 2 ways off that table. Number 1 is to score the goals that you are due, and the other one is to slip off it because you stopped shooting.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with him. So Vardy really, like, I look at his numbers and I wouldn't captain him for a game like this. I'd find it very difficult to do. Last 4 matches, 5 shots in the box, 2 big chances and 2 shots on target. It doesn't really compare with some of the big numbers we're talking about with Salah or Calvert-Lewin, or Martial, Firmino. I mean, even Shane Long has better underlying stats than him right now. So it's really hard to captain him for this. You know, we always talk about for a captaincy, we want 4-man fixture. There's arguably fixture there. Is there form? Not really. So if I'm going to captain a Leicester player, I'd probably be a bit more inclined to go Harvey Barnes. And I know he didn't start the most recent game, but I do think that they looked better when he came on, and it almost felt like an admission from Rodgers that he probably should have started him. And the form he's been in has been great, so I'd be very surprised if he didn't start this next game. In the same period that Vardy's had just 5 shots in the box, he's had 6, but obviously he's playing from a midfield sort of berth, so that's in my opinion impressive. Big chances 2, shots on target 2, so it's actually the same as Vardy, but again he's a midfielder, so he's going to get more richly rewarded for that. And he's created 5 chances, Vardy's created 1, so there's kind of like slightly more potential for a spread of points. And obviously we have to remember that in that period Barnes has missed kind of half or to an hour of a match, so personally I think that's in his favour as well. And to a certain extent, he kind of played up front a little bit in their most recent game when he came on. So there's the potential for that as well. I think bottom line, if I was forced to captain a Leicester asset, it would be Barnes. But actually, I don't think I'd captain any of them again, just to come back to Liverpool. Is that there's just more uncertainties at the back of my mind with these Leicester assets than with Liverpool. So as I said, Barnes obviously didn't start the last game, so it could happen again. The stats aren't amazing, but they're just better than Vardy's, and Vardy's aren't great, so I'm not going to captain him either. With Salah, I don't really have any of those reservations.
Yeah, no, I mean, I echo those thoughts as well, particularly with Leicester at the moment. It's just such a wait-and-see side. They've come off the back of some bad fixtures. Their main striker is in a woeful run of form. Meanwhile, there's a lot of very intriguing differential captaincy options there, and I think that's the stage we're at. Really, we're entering into the last 10 game weeks of the season. Depending where you are in the rankings, if you want to make that differential captaincy move, Leicester are packed full of them, and it's probably not Jamie Vardy at the moment. So I mean, looking at the stats, last 4 game weeks, top for goal attempts there. It's not Harvey Barnes, certainly not Jamie Vardy. It's in fact Pereira in defence. So if you want point, if you think Norwich aren't going to score, Ricardo Pereira is probably your ultimate differential captaincy this week, because he's the guy who's going to get you points at the end of the pitch. 8 goal attempts, 5 in the box. So that's really good. And second is Tielemans. So Tielemans having a bit of a renaissance in underlying stats, and Tielemans could be an intriguing differential if we think Leicester's form is going to follow fixtures. And of course Harvey Barnes is third there with 7 goal attempts, and Vardy's just there with 6. And I'm looking at those, and it's just what we were talking about earlier about depends where you are in the rankings, what you want to achieve. If you're in the top 10 and you want to get a differential captaincy, I mean, these are the sorts of fixtures and these are the sorts of players that I think you could be looking at. Jamie Vardy, I mean, I've got Firmino. I may get Jamie Vardy in as well afterwards. I don't know, but this is a real test for him.
This is a big one for him.
Ditched him
if he doesn't do well, he's gone, I think.
Yeah.
And then if he does, then he's back in.
I mean, I ditched him a couple of weeks ago and haven't looked back. And other people, members of the fancy football scout team, late riser in particular, ditched him. I think he ditched him about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he hasn't looked back.
Got Aguero for him, yeah.
Yeah, so Yeah, I mean, that's the extent of it. That shows where we're thinking with the captaincy with Jamie Vardy. We were wondering whether to actually own him, let alone captain.
Yeah.
There's some other interesting differential options, particularly at Wolves. Now, Jimenez we know about. Now, Jota as well. So there's been, am I right in saying, there's been a formation change at
Yes.
Wolves. So tell us a bit about that and why Raul Jimenez and Jota may be good options against, let's face it, quite a sorry-looking Spurs at the moment.
Yeah, so they have been playing three. They went back to 3-4-3 at the start of this season, having started with it last season as well. And then halfway through last season, they switched 3-5-2 and went on a fantastic run of form. They went back to 3-5-2 against Norwich, which is why Choro was on the bench. Yeah, Jota and Jimenez both through the middle rather than Jota on the left. And it completely unlocked Jota's potential that we saw last season, actually. So when they played 3-5-2 last season, I think it was between Gameweek 18 and 38, which is quite a big spell of the season. Jota outscored Jimenez by about 20 points. Obviously, he was a midfielder at the time, so that would play an impact, and he's not anymore. But the whole point is, if they stay in that formation, then there's every chance that Jota can kind of match Jimenez's returns from a much cheaper price. He's 6.1, Jimenez is 7.9. Obviously, Wolves are playing in that blank game week as well, so maybe Jota's worth pulling in now for that. In the last four, his stats are very nice. He's played fewer minutes than Jimenez, so he's had 3 fewer shots in the box, but he's only had 1 fewer big chance, and he's had more shots on target than Jimenez. And they've both created the same number of key passes. Again, Jota's played fewer minutes. Would I captain them against Spurs? I mean, I certainly wouldn't say it was a terrible idea. I mean, Spurs defensively still look pretty poor under Mourinho. Last 4, they conceded 42 shots in the box, which is bottom 7. For a team that's supposed to be competing for Europe, that's not particularly impressive. 9 big chances conceded, so it's the same number as Watford, only 1 fewer than Norwich. XGC is 7.95, so that's bottom 7. So they certainly don't look like they're going to keep a clean sheet. Wolves tend to do well against bigger teams, so I think Wolves have got a great chance to win this. The only thing that would kind of put me off captaining, or maybe even transferring Jota in at this point, is just the if. Because they switched to 3-5-2 for that Norwich game, but that's just one game. And they still have had success with 3-4-3 this year. Troy always having a fantastic season. So if you play 3-5-2, you arguably can't really use him and Doherty. So, are you leaving yourself kind of, I don't know, are you kind of almost spiting yourself by throwing 3-5-2 and not being able to play Troy? So all of these sort of questions I think will be going through Nuno's mind. And so then obviously I don't think he would know right now. Maybe he does, but the whole point is we don't. So I'd like to see a few more games of Wolves to see if they are going to switch to 3-5-2 full time. Because if they do, then Jota looks really nice.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then he looks all right. And obviously, there's a big difference between that when it comes to fantasy. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the stats of the last couple of game weeks, really. So we're looking at this very, very recent change back to something that they've looked at before, the 3-5-2. Jimenez is this is the picture. Jimenez has been underperforming. He's shooting loads, but he's not as accurate. Jota arguably has been overperforming. So if you're looking at these expected stats, so he scored 2 in the last 2, but his expected goal involvement was just over 1, really. So a little bit of overperformance there. In contrast, Jimenez has scored 1, but he should have scored perhaps 2, arguably, according to the expected goals conceded. So that's what you're looking at there. Good, as you said, it's a slight wait and see with that formation, because that's really key to this. And also, it's what's putting me off. I say putting me off slightly on looking at Traore and Doherty, because of course Traore is an option instead of Doherty there in that wing back role, in that wing role. So I'm a bit unsure about that as well. But what I am sure about is Raul Jimenez is going to play, and he's going to be the main man. And I think
he'll be through the middle regardless of whatever formation.
Exactly, whatever happens, he's your safety there. But if you like a risk and you're going to just punt that they're going to stick with this 3-5-2 for a while, then Jota is also a great option. I just want to bring in a few people from the live chat, really, and I think this goes back to Leicester before we move on to some other options. This shows what people are thinking about Leicester, about say Vardy and some of those more differential options as well. So Jamie Lamming here says in the live chat, I'm sorry, but you've got to go Vardy. I don't want to be sorry, but you've got to go Vardy if you're going to go Leicester. Well, I don't think he's scored since December the something or other. So the evidence doesn't show that way, but that does show the mentality is that Vardy's price and reputation make him an option there. However, Notorious Nerd says, I'm going to get Ricardo this game week, and Dread FPL says, I've just bought Pereira in and I'm close to capping him for the Norwich match. So
good luck.
Exactly what I was saying there. So that shows that Leicester, what they're about with the captaincy, they're in people's thoughts, but for different players and for different reasons. Okay, let's get down to this barrel scraping time. Looking at those Gameweek 28 fixtures, really. Yeah, I mean, we talked about differentials already. This is really super differential territory. Brighton Palace in the M23 derby. Brighton at home. Any Brighton or Palace? No.
No. I mean, I like that you want to bring it up. It's important that we, remember even the smaller derbies. Yeah. I'm joking, but yeah.
The longest road derbies.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a big one. I mean, I do enjoy watching that one. But yeah, Mopé obviously has trolled a few people recently. Palace, I never know what to expect with them. Sometimes they look really sure defensively, sometimes they don't. Same with Brighton. Both teams sometimes look really good and sometimes don't look really good. And then, yeah, sorry. I mean, for me, my differentials, I think, I've already mentioned Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. I think
good.
Their form looks so good.
Yeah.
Man United's defence obviously is slightly improving, so you've got to think about that. I just want to mention Shane Long again, because we kind of made a bit of a point last week that Long had better underlying statistics than Ings. We got a little bit of heat on social media, like, he's only scored one goal this season. Well, we all know what happened in Game Week 27. Underlying stats are really important, and Long's were better than Ings, and they still are. So you got West Ham versus Southampton. So West Ham, it's good team to captain a player against. They've conceded 50 shots in the box last 4, so they have played Man City and Liverpool. But Southampton know how to trouble teams. West Ham have also conceded 12 big chances, so they're in the bottom 5 for that as well. XGC 9.31, so they're in the bottom 4 or 5 for those 3 key defensive stats. So it's hard to really see them keeping a clean sheet against Southampton. And then so Long, I'll just compare them against Ings. I mean, they're not incredible numbers; they're just better than Ings.
Yeah.
Last 4 matches, 8 shots in the box to Ings is 6. 3 big chances to Ings is 1, and they've had the same number of shots on target, 3 each. But again, Long has created 8 chances, Ings just 4. So he's created double the number of chances that Ings has. At 4.6, I mean, he's an absolute nailed-on option for a wildcard, I'd say, especially considering Southampton's fixtures. And, we always talk about sword and shield and what have you. I still think you should have Ings because his conversion rate largely has been pretty good. If you wanted to go for a bit of a sword and shield so that you can kind of have Ings as your shield, then use Long as your opportunity to double up on that attack. 4.6, fantastic option. And as I said, great fixture this week. So, big up Shane Long.
I think you raise a good point there. Something's happening with Ings' role. I don't think, he's not becoming a lesser player at all, but I think he's being asked to do different roles. There's no Redmond. Their creativity in that attacking third is slightly gone. Ings is sort of now, is he their most creative player? I don't. Basically, what's happening is Long is taking some of those routes that he's taking to goal, and we're seeing the fruits. As you said, the importance of looking at underlying stats for those kinds of things. A few more to mention in terms of scraping the barrel. Chelsea and Bournemouth, that usually has goals in it. Now this is the ultimate differentials here because Giroud may not even play, but he would be a good one for Chelsea. And of course Callum Wilson, the ultimate troll. But when it comes to playing Chelsea, Bournemouth do have a knack of scoring. So there's some options there as well. I mean, and the Brighton Palace one, I mean, if you go for Mopé or Jordan Ayew or Patrick Van Aanholt, I mean, this is real barrel scraping time. I just want to point out in the live chat as well. EA Strict 128. What rank are these two geniuses? I'm presuming he's talking about us. We do okay. Don't worry about our ranks. We're doing okay. And FPL Boona comes to our rescue. Don't think they've ever called themselves geniuses. That is indeed true. I don't think either of us
said that.
have called each other or ourselves geniuses. But on that note, and now we've reached the bottom of that barrel. just remind people we've got the Scoutcast tonight, happening at 8 o'clock, joined by Az and Karam. I'll call them geniuses, why not? And there's plenty more videos coming. We've got team news coming up with it. Myself and Luke are doing a Sky one as well. I know some FPL managers are starting to play Sky as well. It's something I do advocate. It's good to helps you with both games, playing both there. And of course, all those stats we've been mentioning, they're in the members area, and you can get access. You don't have to be geniuses like us. You can get access to them just by paying a bit of money each month, tiny bit of money, and each month or for the rest of the season. And then you can create those own tables yourself and have a look at those underlying stats and expected scores there. So, but for now, David, good luck with your game week and good luck with your captaincy choice. I hope you do well. Cheers.
Cheers, and to you as well, Joe.